Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, we're going to go over signs that a woman might be emotionally immature. And I think this is important to recognize because a lot of people might think that their partner is avoidant or anxious attached or fearful avoidant. And while that may be the case, it might be that she's just immature. And if that is the case, you might need to use a different strategy than the avoidance strategies. And if you're using strategies that are attachment based, but it's actually immaturity, it's not going to necessarily work as much as you would like or as much as it would work if there was an attachment issue. And so therefore, you might get more frustrated and you might not feel like she cares about you, and it might just be immaturity. Whether that's good or bad is up to you. I can't be the judge of that, but I wanted to go ahead and talk about this. And a lot of the videos I make on this second channel, I just try to make like more basic stuff. Anything that's attachment based, I'm going to make it more like questions about attachment issues, like more foundational stuff, the more detailed stuff. But I'm also going to do basic things in terms of gender specific stuff because a lot of people ask that on my main channel, but I just don't feel like it fits. And so I'm going to put it on this one as well as clinical stuff too. So I'm going to do that. Okay. So let's go ahead and jump right in. The very first one is she blames everybody but herself. Okay. This is very common for anybody who's immature. They tend to feel like not anything is necessarily their fault, or if they do take some accountability, it's always in the sense I didn't mean to, or they made me do it, or I only did that because I was feeling this way. And so they never fully take accountability and say, you know what, I did do that. That's not something I should have done. I feel ashamed that I did that. She doesn't do that. Instead, she's going to blame somebody else. The only reason I did that is because my mom was never there for me. Well, I just didn't say it because I was scared, right? I did X, Y, and Z because you weren't showing me affection. And so they are not taking full responsibility. While it is possible that they may have acted a certain way because of those factors that we just had mentioned, but they still will take accountability. You know what? I did X, Y, and Z because I was feeling upset. I did crash out. I did raise my voice and I shouldn't have done that. It is because I've been feeling ignored and neglected in our relationship, but that doesn't mean I should have done that. That's not what I should have done. Let's try again. All I want to say is that I'm feeling a little lonely and I need some attention, right? That could be a simple way to describe it, but instead they might take it another way. They might yell, they might get upset, they may blame you instead of herself, okay? The next one, unfortunately, this is very common, and sadly, I do think that this is encouraged. And so I might get a lot of people not happy about me bringing this up, but this is my perception of what I think might be somebody who is immature, and I could be wrong, okay? It is somebody that has double standards. So if she believes that something is okay for her to do, but not okay for him to do, or not okay for somebody else to do, that can be a little bit challenging to communicate with somebody. It's immature because she doesn't realize that's not how the world works. And so that's why I feel like it's immature. It's kind of lacking the maturity and the understanding of the entire world at this point, that even though you may feel a certain way, that's not necessarily how the world will operate, right? And that I feel like is one of the core aspects of immaturity in general, where you don't recognize that your perception is not the only perception, that other people's perceptions, especially if it's more dominant, may actually matter overall more in the sense of logic. I don't mean to say this person is illogical, but any person who believes that they can get away with something and someone else can't, I might perceive that as immature. Now, I understand that could be triggering and I could be wrong. It's just if, for example, somebody believes that, I don't know, it's okay for them to cheat because they feel lonely, but it's not okay for their partner to cheat. That I think is very, that can be a double standard. And men do this too, but we're talking about women right now. And I have a video. Either I'm going to post it after or before this one, I don't know, but I'm going to make it about men too. So I'm not just picking on women. I'm just making this particular video. The next one is that they need constant validation, right? They feel like they need to reach out for any sort of validation. If someone's not giving them attention, they're going to reach out on Instagram. They're going to post pictures. They're going to have a ton of people in their corner so they can always have that validation. And the reason is somewhere inside, she doesn't feel good enough. And so she's trying to feel better by reaching out and fulfilling that aspect of herself. She doesn't think that herself is valid. And the reason why it can come across as also immature, even though it's lacking in self-esteem as well, is because she doesn't fully recognize what that could look like for her. And also the the consequences of some of these behaviors in her life, right? A lot of these are also about not understanding consequences, which is why I would consider it more immature. Because as you grow up, you start realizing how strong consequences are, right? So if you're always needing constant validation, you tend to push people away. You tend to make people think that you're not loyal, or you don't care about their own opinion, or you're lacking in self-worth. And so that creates consequences. The next one is similar. The next one is they're competitive with others of the same gender, right? So they feel like another person, let's say this person, we have a woman and I don't know, she graduated computer science major, okay? And her friend also is computer science. And maybe her friend got a job before her. And so now she's very competitive. Now she's trying to apply that same job. She's trying to talk back to like bad things about her and try and put her down because she's simply upset that her friend, they both graduated at the same time, same degree, but her friend got a job before her. That is a competitive feeling, and it's probably because part of it, she feels like that makes her less of a person, right? She's not as valuable, right? We see this a lot with looks. Actually, looks is more common, where she thinks somebody's prettier than her, or she's afraid that this means she's not as pretty, so they might be competitive. And the reason why this is immature is because these types of behaviors, they have consequences, right? If you're competitive with somebody of the same gender, instead of trying to connect and create a safe like friend group or connection with others, now you're isolating yourself from certain possibilities of community, right? And so this is why this can be immature. It also just makes you as a person, if you're the immature woman, I'm not saying you guys are, by the way, I'm just giving an example, it makes you not understand that behaving that way makes more people feel like they want to be around you less as well. And so that's the other consequence, among other things, right? No one should feel like they should have to be competitive with someone else because you're valuable who you are. No one's going to take that from you. And a lot of people don't realize that, right? The next one is they're guided by their emotions. If they feel a certain way, that's the reality for the moment. They're not looking at it from another perspective. They're feeling really upset. They're feeling really hurt about something, and they feel like that gives them the right to do something. Maybe they're feeling really impulsive about something, and so maybe they felt like their partner is doing something towards them, and there's a part of them that knows their partner is not cheating on them, but they feel genuinely that it is, and so they're guided by that. They're picking on them. They're pushing their partner away. They might snoop through their partner's stuff, and they turn up empty-handed, and that's okay. Like everyone makes mistakes, right? But what happens is you crossed a boundary. So of course you want to apologize, say I never do that again. But let's say that wave comes up again. They have that emotion again, and they do it again. And they're not showing that improvement. You're guided by emotions. They might even validate, oh, well, I deserve to do this because this is a sign, X, Y, and Z. Or I had this dream, so this is a sign. And this can be hurtful for themselves because they're not allowing themselves to recognize they don't need to be hurt like this, right? It's not worth being hurt about something that might not be real, right? And if it is real, it'll come to fruition in its own course, or you're pushing away people that love you. And this can be hard as well. So guided by emotions is a sign they're immature, okay? The next one is irresponsible with money. Anybody who's irresponsible with money tends to be somebody who is more immature. It's not always the case, okay, folks? But it's a common trait that I notice where they're irresponsible to the point because, again, they're not thinking of the consequences, which is one of the markers that I think when I think about somebody who's immature. Because you need that money to pay your whatever it may be, your bills, right? Mortgage, rent, or maybe you don't have any of those things, but maybe you have to pay your car insurance, or you have to buy groceries, whatever it is. But if you're irresponsible with money, you're not thinking ahead. How do I pay this bill? How do I do this? You're not thinking about those things. And then you could end up in a place that you don't want to be. You could end up having to put, you have to put something on your credit card, right? Whatever it may be, and picking up debt in certain ways, or you have to borrow money and then you owe somebody this, and you never know what's happening, right? Or you might not be able to eat the food that you want to eat, whatever it is. And the consequences can be even more severe than that. And that's why I classify that as immaturity. And the very last one is much more specific to relationships, but I do see this a lot. It's that somebody is trying to make their partner jealous because she doesn't get what she wanted. That's a blunt way to put it. I know there's a lot more details to it, and sometimes people don't mean this. And I want to mention, if she's anxiously attached, sometimes all she needs is reassurance. And then she's going to stop doing that. And you got to call her out. Like, you can't let her say this, right? And if she's a genuine, decent woman, she will hear you and apologize and say, I don't want to do that to you. I'm sorry I hurt you. If she's anxious attached, it's not necessarily that she's trying to control you. she's just feeling very anxious in the moment. So any sort of reassurance plus boundaries is going to be helpful. But in general, if somebody is trying to make you jealous because they're not getting their way or they didn't get something out of the way they wanted it, communicate with them. And if this doesn't change, this might be a boundary that you have to set even more strongly, because this one can be detrimental to relationships as well. I hope this video is helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I will see you in the next one.